I'm with Jennifer Wilson of NiCE at Enterprise Connect. So tell me what's going on with WEM, WFM, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think so. There's been as we all know, there's been a shift in the workforce, right? So there's this idea that the workforce is no longer made up of just the human agents. That those AI agents that are being introduced into the workforce are now part of that. So that impacts forecasting, it impacts scheduling, it impacts the quality management side of things. So now what traditional workforce management solutions have looked like as they relate to monitoring the human agent's performance, monitoring and even scaling those human agents, that same functionality, that same approach is now being applied to the AI agents. So it's super neat in how that shift is happening, even from a dashboard perspective. What we're looking at, what we're monitoring, we can monitor those human agents, we can monitor those AI agents, or we can monitor them as a single workforce. How are they working together? What's effective? As we all know, there is some type of limit to the scalability of a human agent. And so the neat thing about those AI agents is they really are limitless in how they can scale. And so now I think we're starting to see a shift in how organizations are thinking about that workforce, whether it's intent based, whether it's seasonality or an uptick in different situations where they need to scale super quick. They can do so with those AI agents. They can look at that workforce and then they can determine where and when do I need to insert those human agents to assist. And so I think that's been one of the biggest shifts, is that collection of both those entities in the workforce. And then we're also seeing an increase in the co-pilot element of a workforce manager within WEM.
So can you explain what that is?
Sure. So, traditionally, what we've seen a lot of focus around co-pilots targeted specifically to the agent workspace. Why not introduce that into the supervisor workspace, into the workforce manager workspace, and do so in a proactive manner? So give those workforce managers insights. The wonderful thing about proactive co-pilots and some of the value that AI provides us is it helps us uncover different correlations, different trends that are happening that we wouldn't have been able to do traditionally as a human. It's got a broader data set that it's monitoring and what it's looking at in order to provide those insights back to those workforce managers. So the same concepts that we've seen with the human agents are now applied to the agent co-pilot are now applied to those workforce managers. So tell me about the performance of specific agents. And again, that falls into, are they human agents or are they AI agents?
And they can just do that in a natural way. They don't have
exactly. It's just a conversational UI, no different than we're using all of our co-pilots in our normal daily lives. So it's a shift in how we're thinking of that. Why not give them that same functionality on that workforce side? And then I think in addition to that, outside of the co-pilots, one thing that's interesting is the data that we're using, and this isn't limited just the workforce management piece, but when we think about interaction analytics and that type of stuff, we tend to focus primarily on quality tied back to transcriptions and the actual call recordings or the chat transcripts or those types of things as to how we assess quality of interactions. What we're starting to see now is this shift to why not also look at the desktop analytics. And what's neat about that is there may be situations where CSAT has dropped, sentiment has dropped on a conversation, but maybe it wasn't as a result of something that the agent did. Maybe there was one of the systems that they're working in went down, or they didn't have access to some type of information. Now we can leverage that intelligence to say, okay, we know what happened in the transcription, know what happened with the call, we know that the sentiment shifted, but let's also now correlate that back to what was happening on the agent's desktop to identify what's the root cause of why that shift happened. Was it that they're not trained on what they needed to be, or was it a lack of tools or something breaking in that process that we needed to adjust? And so it's really cool how those it just adds a different layer of analytics in what we're doing from a quality perspective. And then all of that data, of course, can also be, it's not just limited to that from a reporting perspective and a workforce side. All of that data that's captured is also helping us to identify where can automations be created based on those same metrics that we've identified from both the the traditional interaction analytics as well as those desktop analytics.
And then can other people in the organization use some of that information to help improve products or other things?
Exactly, absolutely. So that's the goal. Is if you think about there may be things that are happening that are in what we refer to as the traditional contact center, but their broader impact across the organization. So it's product feedback or whatever it may be. Absolutely. So all of that data can then be pushed into other areas of the organization for them to assess and figure out, how to make improvements there as well.
Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Blair.